Okay, here's essentially a crash course in editing or creating custom VFS. And by no means am I an expert. I'm not Sean. And I don't even pretend that I know that much about it, but I have dabbled with the VFS now for a while, and I thought it may be necessary for some of the new users just to have a little crash course to get started if they're planning on making some VFSs or whatever. This will kind of maybe bridge the gap or the learning curve a little bit, get you up and running a little sooner. I mean, it took me a little while to sort it all out, so I'll kind of hopefully give you a better understanding or whatever, especially from a non-developer standpoint. Essentially, what you're going to want to do when you're first starting out with VFS is, obviously go through the the documents that Sean's created, but you'll also want to go in from your Sage folder, your home folder, wherever that is. You're going to want to create a couple of subfolders in the user data area. If you drop down into user data, then into Phoenix, you probably will not have all of these subfolders. I don't recall which ones are there if you haven't manipulated anything. But at the very least, you're going to want to create a VFS and a menus subfolder. And this is where you're going to be storing your specific custom menus and views, VFS views, interchangeable terms. These are stored as little code fragments or widgets, so that when Phoenix releases new versions of the menu system, let's say, or and they make changes to their VFS and the menus, your changes won't be affected. This stuff is always ingested later, and if you need to see the original VFS, if you go into STVs up here under the Sage folder, in Phoenix, you can see menus and VFS. This would be the VFS that Phoenix is using, and you just don't really want to edit this directly, because when they release a new version, they're going to blow away all your changes. So that's why you can use this as reference points on how to build things, for the landing menus and so forth, to figure out what the screen names are, for example, the flow types and the banners. That's generally how you just gotta kind of work everything backwards usually, figure it, kind of reverse engineer it. But in the VFS, oh wait, no, I get into my side, in the user data area, that's where you want to store your stuff. And like I said, I'm still fumbling my way through these things, and obviously there's a lot better ways to do it. So far, I've been keeping all my views as individual XML files, and I denote them with my initials so that I know what I'm working with, instance status, for example. And then when I'm testing them, I denote them with testing. For whatever reason, this system's been working out for me. Once I move it out of testing, these ones get applied to a menu and launched into real time. What I'm going to end up doing, and maybe I should have did this before I did this video, is have one single VFS and move them in there. I just haven't gotten that far, kind of like what they've got here, merging them all into one cumulative refined VFS. I haven't done that. I've just been keeping them separate. It's been working, and eventually I'll do that. So maybe starting out, you might want to consider that, do your testing in separate individual modules, and then when you're confident or happy with the results and everything is working, move it into one cumulative VFS XML file, so that you're not, because it's starting to get a little bit unwieldy for me here, and I'll need to address that. But for now, as long as you have the menus folder, and I've been kind of denoting them, where they belong, if they're TV menus or video menus. But okay, one of the things you're going to want to do is just get an understanding of how the VFS is structured, and Sean's got some really good documents to get you going on that. Another thing that has been working for me is to do your testing and building in BMT, because BMT and Phoenix are so intertwined and so tightly integrated with one another. I've been finding that the testing and everything works extremely well until you get happy with it, because the VFSs that you create here, if they are set here, I'll show you one here. I'm just drawing a blank here. Where is it? Movies for kids only, whatever. Of course, this one doesn't have the visible equals true. Movies only. Aha. So this one here, I can tell you, this is two views that feed one another. Views can feed views. But you'll notice that if it's visible equals true, it will show up in BMT as well. So if you're testing it, you'll be able to see the same thing without having to build a menu item right away until you're confident that you're happy with what your result is. So for example, this is WR movies only, and they're always named like that so I can differentiate mine versus what Sean has or what Brian or Mike have created in the original VFS or the default VFS. So this is movies only, and you'll see this is the label then, cinematic only. So I can see here's my cinematic only in BMT. And I denote them too so that they stay grouped together, and here are the test ones I'll be kind of monkeying with until I get happy with them. But if I choose cinematic only, I can see exactly what Phoenix is going to see. So I can really hone in and correct and find out right away, because it will generate an error message for you, and you can zap the error right away off of the status page, which is kind of convenient. Rather than, and then you have the refresh options here to refresh configurations to reset the VFS and reset the menus and all of that, and you'll find out right off the bat whether or not you've got an error, and then it'll usually pop up the error code and tell you that you have something malformed. Usually that's what I have lots of errors in my code, so until I get it down to a point where I'm pretty happy with it. One of the things that I've learned, I really like having control over how my specific media is structured on my hard drive, and I emulate that with the VFS in order to kind of maintain that. Brian has mentioned that he likes the fact that it can absorb the crossover, and you don't really have to know where it's coming from. It's just going to pick it up. Well, that's nice, and I do use those too, but I've been finding it, I like to narrow it down to specific locations on my hard drive so that I can have specific lookups. And that's mostly what I've been changing for my personal choice, I suppose. But the biggest thing is, when you want to do that, is that the structure of your data needs to be in such a way that